All right.
日本語を勉強しています。日本の映画が好きです。日本のビデオゲームが好きです。日本のジャズが好きです。アニメが好きです。だから私は学びたかった。それが役立つかしら。I have heard a bit of BABYMETAL before. I do remember seeing a clip of them playing the song Gimme Chocolate on Stephen Colbert's show. And I remember at the time just loving the concept of combining like J-pop with heavy metal. And not just for the obvious clash of cultures, right? Not just for the blending of opposites. But I think there's something that resonates with the way that Japan is perceived in particular by many of us here in the US. I have no idea if this is true or not, or to what extent, but one of the things that is passed around as an anecdotal fact here is that despite being one of the largest cities in the world, Tokyo is so safe that school children can walk the streets unaccompanied at night with no fear of ever being accosted in any way. And that's the thing about BABYMETAL, right? The image of 3 school-age girls singing and dancing with no fear whatsoever in front of a group of very scary-looking metal monster men. That image, I think, feeds into the image that many of us have about this particular aspect of Japanese culture, if it even exists. I'm also happy with the fact that this album happened only a few weeks after the Metal Month stuff. Perhaps this will give me a better appreciation of the instrumental components of this album. Either way, I'm excited to dig into this album. Saiko!
Okay. Yeah, what a fun album. I mean, I was exposed to BABYMETAL several years ago through my dad. Excuse y'all. I don't even know if this is gonna pick up. If you can't hear, there is some stomping around going on upstairs. So I was exposed to BABYMETAL through my dad when I was a kid, but the only song I really knew was Gimme Chocolate, their most popular song. So when my dad asked me to choose the albums for this season, I was super excited. It gave me an opportunity and an excuse to dive back into BABYMETAL.
First thing I can tell you, if the notion of spending an hour exclusively with metal turns you off to listening to this album, then rest easy. Going through BABYMETAL the first time, I'm hearing EDM, I'm hearing sugary J-pop, dubstep, hip-hop, even reggae. As weird as that is. But even in the full-on heavy metal tunes, the melody is strong and the chords are inventive. I mean, check out what happens in the chorus of Gimme Chocolate, for example. But truth to tell, the most fun I am having with this album so far is in the heaviest songs. Akatsuki, for example. That might be the best boss battle music ever recorded. Well, except for maybe Last Surprise by Lynn. You'll never see it coming back. The backing groove in Catch Me If You Can is almost industrial, almost funky, very heavy. And then having these 3 sweet little things going ma-da-da-yo over the top is just so cool. And the 3 singers, they're all fabulous, especially the lead singer, YiuMetal. So yeah, in the first song, BABYMETAL Death, the 3 singers introduce themselves as YiuMetal, and MoaMetal. But here's the clever thing. The Japanese language does not have a th sound. There's no the. So when they say death in the song, it sounds like des. And it just so happens that the verb am translates to desu. Only most Japanese speakers swallow that last u sound. So to say, for example, I'm Vaylor, in Japanese I say Vaylor des. Or probably more like Bela des, since there's no L's and R differentiations. The end result, when they say BABYMETAL death, it actually translates to we're BABYMETAL. They're just introducing themselves. It just happens to sound like the English word death. And then at the 4:35 mark is, no fooling, a guitar solo which I now consider to be in my personal top 10 of all time. Immaculate, difficult, musical, surprising, and absolutely face-melting. But back to the singers. The song Rondo of Nightmares has an extremely challenging melody, covering 2 full octaves, most of it in 3/4 time, and every note is even, every note is pristine. These singers don't do any cadenzas or improv or anything like that. Just like the rest of the band, they're given a melody, they're given a part, and they execute it flawlessly. This is going to be a fun week. Ko no on ga wa oishii desu. Itadakimasu.
Zukyun, dokyun, zugyun, dokyun, yada, 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 never, never, never.
So yeah, I had a ton of fun listening to it. It was so much better than I expected, you know? From a technical standpoint, I mean, the musicianship is just fantastic, you know? There are just some absolutely insane guitar solos on this album. One of the best being on the first song. And it was just, you know, on top of good musicality, you know, good technical ability, stylistically it's also very fun, and artistically it's fun, you know. 3 little girls, sweet little girls fronting this huge metal band. I mean, how fun is that, you know? Everything BABYMETAL is just so fun and polished, and like, I just really respect them. I know they're not together anymore, but I still like really, really very much respect them as musicians and as performers.
This has been a surprising week. The research I usually do for music I'm listening to, well, it had unexpected results this week. Usually the first thing I do is read the credits and liner notes of the album. Only thing is, this album didn't have any. Only the song titles and the stage names of the 3 singers. So next stop is the internet. Wikipedia is usually a good starting point. What I learned is that BABYMETAL is an entertainment entity created by a Japanese talent agency called Amuse. The 3 singers auditioned to be signed to the talent agency when they were like 9 to 10 years old. And by the time they were between 11 and 12 years old, they were part of a standard J-pop, middle school idol kind of a band. In that particular idol band scenario, there was a producer at Amuse Talent who was something of a metalhead. So he gave Suzuka Nakamoto the persona of a metalhead, and she became YiuMetal. And that concept spun off into BABYMETAL. And by the time YiuMetal was 13, they became the youngest band to play the Summer Sonic Festival, which is this massive festival in Japan that takes place over 3 cities. And what they do is they rotate the acts from one city to the next over the course of the 3 days. When they released their first album in 2014, the oldest singer, YiuMetal, was still only 16 years old. Looking further into the rest of the musicians, what I found is that BABYMETAL's backing band is officially known as the Kami, or God Band. The Kami band has had several members over the years, so it was a bit difficult for me to track down who exactly was playing that amazing solo on BABYMETAL Death. And I finally found out that solo and most of the solos on that first album were performed by a guitarist named Mikio Fujioka, known as the little god Gokami. Now here's the thing. I found out that Mikio Fujioka died in 2018 at only 36 years old. After, check this out, falling from an observatory tower while stargazing at night. Another thing I noticed, when you look up BABYMETAL these days, they only list 2 singers. YiuMetal apparently left the band, and there are not many details as to why. But I did see one source that said it was due to illness. And so, for the past week, as a result of all of this backstory, I've been trying to come to terms with some very complicated feelings surrounding this music. First of all, there's the manufactured nature of the band itself, right? I'm not sure if this is a cultural divide thing between the US and Japan, but given the rise in popularity in J-pop and K-pop, maybe that divide is closing. But the notion that there are several layers between the music's conception and execution feels strange to me. The notion that the people on stage singing and playing for you are not the ones who conceived of and wrote the music. But when you think about it for even just a minute, I'm not sure that it should feel weird. I mean, look, there's going to be hundreds of performances of the Nutcracker all over the country this month, and not a one of them will be conducted by Tchaikovsky. Plus, I am a fan of the Monkees, and the Shags for that matter. So clearly I'm at least partially okay with the notion of music performed by hired or otherwise coerced musicians. And the next thing that really kind of stuck me this week is the death of Mikio Fujioka, and the fact that someone that immensely skilled could have a fabulous career in Japan playing amazing music to giant festivals and arenas, and that he could record something as amazing as what I heard on this album. And not only have I never heard of them, the metal fans in my life had never heard of him either. That doesn't sit well with me. Who else should I know? What gems are waiting to be discovered in the local popular music of Azerbaijan or Lithuania or Gabon? And then there's YiuMetal, or YiuMetal, and her departure. I've seen press releases and interviews from the remaining members of BABYMETAL, and they always say that they still consider her part of the band, part of the family. They have not replaced her. Instead, they have a group of backup dancers that swap out for her dance parts in the shows. But I have to admit to the fact that when I learned that, the thing that goes through my head is how much of that is the genuine impression of the band members and how much of that is the amused talent agency constructing a narrative that would sit well with the public. But going down that road starts to feel cynical, kind of prurient even. So I have to be content with accepting what they're saying publicly is true. Which really is the way you gotta be in life, right? Needless to say, at the beginning of the week, when I just, thought about spending a week with a combination J-pop heavy metal band, the last thing I was expecting to do was to get into deep philosophical thoughts about the nature of authenticity in music. I don't think I can say that BABYMETAL is my favorite of all the albums that I've discovered during this series, but I definitely will say that the best parts of this album are easily the most fun I've had so far. Seriously, guys, grins, chills, laughing out loud, 100% fun on a bun. So consider this my Christmas present to you. Go listen to BABYMETAL. It'll surprise you. Merry Christmas.
This was just a ton of fun, and I'm really glad I had the opportunity to revisit BABYMETAL.
心配なんですだけどチョコレートチョコレートちょちょいいかなでもねチョコレートチョコまでちょちょちょ Give me